Unit 7, Part 9. Forgive the brain fart there. Here is the example I want for why I'm using the phrase plus or minus negation. I'm explaining working backwards. Working backwards is where you look at the conclusion and you say, where does this conclusion appear plus or minus a negation amongst the premises? Why plus or minus a negation? Well, think of modus tollens, right? Modus tollens, given a conditional and the negation of the consequent, you're entitled to infer the negation of the antecedent. I just mentioned this rule from Unit 8 that we'll see in Unit 8, double negation. It's going to help us here. So look at this, right? So here, my top-down reasoning would go as so. My bottom-up reasoning would run as so. Here is my conclusion. It is E. Where does this formula plus or minus negation appear amongst the premises? Here I have a not E, hook B, right? So it appears here plus a negation, right? So it appears here plus a negation. So now my question is, right? What I have to ask myself is, it appears as what, right? And the answer is, as the antecedent of a conditional, right? That is not E, at least, this formula plus a negation. This formula appears as the antecedent of the conditional. What rule allows me to bust off, separate off, antecedents of conditionals? It's modus tollens, because modus tollens has as the conclusion the negation of the antecedent of the conditional, right? And if I look at, so what I would think here is, so the two-part thought that I read from 136, right, especially, right, so the bit in quotes she has at the bottom of 136, given that this is the conclusion I want, how can I get it? That is, what formulas do I need to derive it, and what rules will be applied? I'm thinking, I usually think it in the other order, that is, so first of all, I ask first, what rule is going to get me this formula? So I figured out, where does this appear, plus or minus negation? It appears here. What rule am I going to use to get that by itself? Modus tollens. Modus tollens allows me to bust off, separate out the antecedents of conditionals. So the rule, that's my first of the two questions. What rule do I need to apply to get to this? It's going to be modus tollens. Second question, what formula do I need to apply the rule? Right? How do I satisfy the condition of the rule? Well, what is the rule? Right? Here I'm thinking of modus tollens like this. Okay, it's modus tollens is this: P hook Q, not Q, therefore P. Right? I'm thinking I've got P hook Q, right? And I figured out, not P, not Q, not P. I figured out, right, that I need a not P, right? I figured out that this, how do I get this? It's something like, that is plus or minus negation, the antecedent of the conditional. So I want to get the antecedent of the conditional. Right? That was the thought which put me in mind of modus tollens. Right? I need to derive this. What rule allows me to derive the negation of antecedents of conditionals? What rule gets me antecedents of conditionals? Just think that much. Oh, it's modus tollens. Okay, so what's modus tollens? That's the first premise. Okay, so now it's sort of, my point in putting this up is to point out that it's the second premise is what the substitution instance of the second premise is the second part of my thought. I think, working backwards, you think, what rule is applied? What formula do I need to apply the rule? What formula do I need to apply the rule? Well, the formula that's the substitution instance of the second premise. Right? I've noticed that the first premise is the conditional, the one I attended to because it's where E appears, plus or minus negation. It appears as what? If it appeared as the consequent, that's why I got messed up here. If it appeared as the consequent, I think modus ponens, be thinking of modus ponens, because modus ponens is the one that allows you to bust off consequence of conditionals, right? But no, it's the antecedent, so I'm thinking modus ponens. You see how well you need to know the rules, right? This is the kind of thoughts you need to have of them, right? Oh, I'm probably going to modus something, but modus what? It's probably going to be modus tollens appearing as my justification for how I get there. Okay, but I have to ask, so I figured out what rule I need. Second question, what formula do I need to apply the rule? Well, what is the rule? It's the second condition for the application of the rule, that is the second premise is not Q, the negation of the consequent of the conditional. So that means I need, what? The negation of the consequent of this conditional, which is not B. Oh, look, it will often turn out this way. I have that. I'm given that amongst the premises. So I have the conditions for the rule, right? So my conclusion will be, okay, another lesson here about rigor that I can teach. What is the conclusion? What is the application of the rule? Can I write 3 modus tollens, right? Actually, no. I'm not exactly correct to think that modus tollens is my last step. E is not the conclusion of modus tollens, and you do lose marks if you skip this text. Okay, distinguished. My point is, this is a conditional. You've got the negation of the consequent, the negation of the antecedent of the conditional. The proper conclusion that rigorously fits the form is not E. Okay? It's the negation of the antecedent of the conditional. The conditional is not E. Sorry, the antecedent is not E, so the negation of it is not E. Distinguish 2 thoughts in your mind. One question, is it a valid, is it a truth-preserving move? Right, no, try this. Am I preserving truth, right? Am I certain that I'm going from things which are true to other things that are true? If I were to go from 1 and 2 straight to what is now 4, right? If I was to just write E here. Yes, you can be certain that you're preserving truth, but that's not the question. The question is, am I correctly applying a rule? And the answer is no, right? You can still get to this. That's why I have this rule here, right? The move from 3 to 4, right? Modus tollens 1, 2, double negation, unit 8 rule on 3. Right, that's the justification. So it's an M. Modus tollens, right? That's the proper conclusion of modus tollens, right? The negation of the antecedent, so it's not E. You've got to fit it rigorously. It's correct that E, you're right that E does follow of necessity of these 2 things, but it is not a correct application of modus tollens. You would be skipping a step if you inferred E by modus tollens, okay? The exams do test you on this notion of rigor, right? Many people lose marks by skipping that step. Don't skip that step. You've got to fit that. Okay, that was going to have to be said at some stage. All right. Anyway, I was talking about addition, okay? So, forgetting that, just looking at this, the rule of addition, when will it be useful, right? Given P, you're entitled to infer, given any formula, you're entitled to infer the disjunction of that formula or anything else you want. The paradigmatic case of when it's useful is something like this, okay? So again, let's do working backwards here. What's my conclusion? It's E. Question, where does this formula plus or minus a negation occur amongst the premises? Okay, where's the E? You see any E's? Oh, look, just here, right? E, okay? So next question, it occurs as what? It occurs as the consequent of a conditional, okay? So see how each thought leads to the next thought that will get you home, on the train of thoughts that will get you home. Each thought leads to the next thought on the train of thoughts that will get you home. Okay? This is what I need. This appears amongst the premises. This is the consequent of a conditional. Oh, I'm probably going to get it by modus ponens. Okay, so again I'm thinking in my mind, modus ponens comes out, P hook Q, P therefore Q, right? And what's the application of it? Well, I've looked at this, I've seen that this is the consequent of a conditional given in the premises, right? That's why it's a Q to go with this P and Q, right? So that's that, and this is, the P hook Q is a B by conditional G hook E. That's just this, A or B by conditional G. That's the antecedent hook E. Sorry, it just says that. So that is my P hook Q, okay? And now again, question mark here, right? I'm asking, what formula do I need to apply that rule, okay? What formula do I need such that I can do modus ponens and get the consequent of the conditional? And what's the answer? Okay, so the answer is, well, if this is P hook Q, then that's going to be the P. I need to somehow get A or B by conditional G, right? I don't know how I get it, right? This is working backwards, and I've thought my way. I'm working backwards, and I thought, this is crucial. This is what I need, right? I haven't derived it, right? I haven't got this out, right? I haven't derived this, and it's not that I can give a justification for this. I've determined that this is what I need to get home. Once I have this, then I can cite this and this. Say 1, it's going to be 1, it's going to be 3, but you don't know that yet. And I can say, oh, modus ponens to E. I have a conditional, I have the antecedent of the conditional, I can infer the consequent, and I'm home, right, once I get there. So now, right, working backwards, I ask, how do I get this? I've determined this is what I need. How do I get it? This is where addition comes in. Okay, I've got A. I'm entitled to infer by addition A or brackets B or B by conditional G. That is a legal formula. So that is a correct substitution instance of Q, a legal substitution instance of Q, and that's it. That's the kind of situation when you're going to use addition, right? Quite often to get the antecedent of a conditional where you want to do a modus ponens.